For information about selecting an aircon or some tips about running an aircon, watch this video. Hi, Mike from Everything Caravans. Just wanted to quickly run through aircons. A lot of people misunderstand how they work and stuff. There's basically two components to a rooftop aircon. You have the rooftop unit and then the ADB or air distribution box underneath. And basically you're sucking air into the vents here. It's being brought up into the unit and then back down again and blown out the vents. An aircon actually it takes the air in, and then what we're aiming for is about a 20-degree drop in temperature. So if the van's 30 degrees inside, it will drop it to 10 degrees and come out. And it just keeps doing that until the van temperature comes down to your set temperature. So most aircons come as reverse cycle aircons. There's pretty much no heating element ones now for heating. So for heating, they reverse the action so that you get the heat coming inside, cooling coming on the outside. The downside to that is that when there's frost on the ground, so you're 0 degrees, they don't put out much heat. So a lot of them advertise that they'll go down to -4. But what they're doing is they have to melt ice on the outside. The actual evaporator unit develops ice on it. In a domestic situation, we have some heating tape on that, and it melts the ice off. In an RV situation, what we do is we reverse the unit again and put the heat to the outside, melt the ice, and then start heating to the inside. So as you go from +4 degrees to -4 degrees, you're getting full heating capability to it's spending all its time melting ice. So it's not actually creating any heating. So basically, if there's frost on the ground, that's my best indicator. Frost on the ground, you can't rely on an aircon to give you heating. That's when you need to go to your diesel or gas heating. The next new fad, I'll call it, in air conditioning is inverter technology. So basically what an inverter technology does, it allows the compressor on the aircon to run at a much lower speed and put out less cooling. It's a great idea, I suppose, in that if you have restricted power capability, so you have a very small generator or you're running it off batteries, you can actually wind back the amount of power that the aircon's going to use. And so it will cool slightly less as well. On the latest domestic models, they have an app, and you can actually wind down the amount of power that you're using, and that's great if you're trying to run an aircon off a battery. The downside to it is it's added a lot more complexity and electronic boards, PCBs, to the aircons. So when they fail, there's a lot more to go wrong electronically, and so out of warranty, you end up with a lot more PCBs and stuff. Now, there really is no way around that. There's very few aircons that are not inverter technology. One of the ones we do like a lot is the Truma inverter. It's a German-made aircon, and we'll flash a picture up of it. And that aircon doesn't have inverter technology. It does start very softly and works well on a generator, and we've run them off batteries without any problems with 3,000 watt inverters, good quality inverters. You can pretty much run any of the modern aircons on battery power. The downside of that, the problem with that, is that if you drain your batteries that night using the aircon, you're then reliant on the solar in the morning to recharge your batteries. And I don't believe that anyone has enough solar to recharge their batteries ready for that day's aircon running. So the only way you can really use an aircon off battery is to run it for a very short time. So if you're wanting to get to sleep and it's just a bit hot, have some cold air blowing on you, set a timer on the aircon and run it for half an hour, and it'll give you a bit of cool air blowing on you. But I haven't seen anyone realistically be able to run an aircon multiple days. We have done some neat little things though for in the past. Like we had a T-van, and this customer came from Sydney on his way to Darwin. We're in Melbourne. And he had to get an aircon in the system into his T-van. Otherwise, his wife wasn't coming to Darwin. They had a newborn baby, and they needed to be able to run it. So they were running it off a generator. And so we were able to develop a system that, with an underbunk aircon, and put that into the unit. So I'm not sure that running an aircon off battery power is all that it's cracked up to be. We've got 48 volt systems coming now, 48 volt aircons to run off 48 volt batteries, which is great, very efficient. But again, the aircon's going to use a fair bit of power, and you're unlikely to be able to recharge it the next day to use it and recharge your batteries. So it becomes a little bit of a fallacy, I think, of having a battery operated aircon. Happy to be proven wrong. Love to see some facts and figures on that, but I would struggle to sell a system to somebody and say that they're going to be able to run it on their batteries, run a 48 volt system or a standard aircon on inverters and have it run 100%. We stock 3 main brands of aircon. We probably have about 10 different brands that are available to us, and there is reasons we don't stock them. Mainly the 2 main reasons are spare parts. We come from a repair background, so we have been repairing appliances for 50 years, and personally 13 or 14 years. So we struggle with brands that don't have backup and support and spare parts. We don't want to sell you something that you can't then keep operating. So there are numerous brands that we won't touch. They might work well as an aircon, but their backup support, supply, and service out in the field is lacking. So we stock Truma. They have 2 products. They have the My Coolman inverter aircon. I know the factory owner in China personally, and I know how he works, how that operated, and it's a very, very good quality product. And we've been selling them for over a year without any problems, and we have sold well over 100 units of that. The Truma Aventa, it's been around for 12, 13 years. It was very leading edge when it came out. It is one of the aircons that was designed to work in 42 plus degrees, and it works very, very well. It's a non-inverter unit, but we've run them off generators, run them off batteries. We like that unit. I fitted a new aircon to my Caravan at Christmas time, and that's what I fitted. It's a great unit, and it's one of the few aircons that's not actually made in China. It's a German source product from Truma. The other brand that we carry is Dometic. Pretty hard to get away from not using a Dometic at times. They have very good backup and support of their aircons. The downside of Dometic is that they're constantly changing their models. This is a model comparison sheet that they've just brought out for us to show, what models they've changed and what's available now. So they seem to be in a little bit of disarray as to where they should source from, which factory that they own, which aircon, and it's pretty confusing. We had a great range with the Harrier, the Ibis, and Harrier Plus and stuff, and then now we've got FJXs, and they've just released FJZs. With Dometic, though, we do recommend not buying their latest models. We do find they rush to market a little bit, and they do back up and support the product. So, if you do buy a brand new van and it's got an FJZ on it, and it has an issue, not saying they will have an issue, but if it does have an issue, it will be resolved. But we do find that they do improve their models as they go. And so we prefer our aftermarket customers to have a product that's proven. So we're currently still selling the FJX range. So we have a Light, a Pro, and a Plus. And they've got inverter technology in them. And they're good units. We're going to stay away from the FJZs for a moment, just to let them improve. When the Harrier range came out, I think they got to about number 5 iteration of improvements and stuff on that model. But yeah, really good airflow, good backup and support, So Truma and Dometic, two good brands. And then our, I suppose what would say our budget brand or more price sensitive brand is Cool J. Just a bit of an unknown brand, but we've been dealing with Juan and his family for about 7 years, and he's fantastic. Really cares about the end user and their experience. So if anyone ever has a problem, needs a spare part, he goes to a lot of trouble to make sure everything is resolved and happens. So we really like Cool J. So the three main brands that we carry are Cool J. He's got a very big range of inverter, 48 volt, and standard reverse cycle aircons, the Dometic, and of course the two Truma models. The other kind of aircon is the underbunk aircon. We'll flash a picture up. I don't know which side. Flash a picture up anyway. Underbunk aircons. These work reasonably well. It is better to drop cold air into the roof of the Caravan because that's where the heat is rising. So you're displacing that. So technically you get better air conditioning, better room airflow. But if you don't have room on the roof because you've covered it in solar panels, or your pop top, or you've got a height restriction where you store your van, then we do have the underbunk options. The main ones there, we have three brands, I suppose. Furion, Cool J, and the Truma. Probably our favourite is the Truma. It's been in the market for a very long time. And then the next would be the Cool J. And the Cool J and the Furion are basically the same unit with a different brand name on them. Underbunks work well, weights down low. They do have ventilation through the floor, so we have to cut a hole in the floor for that, and that has to be done properly. Otherwise, they will what we call short cycle, and the unit won't keep cooling. We have repaired a number of installs, both from caravan manufacturers and other repairers who have put them in and not put them in properly, and then they haven't worked, and then people have brought them to us for a warranty, or just seeing what we can do to fix them, and it's just apparent that they haven't been installed correctly. So they must be installed correctly, and then they work quite well. So those are your two types. The other thing with rooftop aircons is there is two roof hole sizes. Most of the modern aircons now are size agnostic. They have adapters for the two different sizes. So the two sizes are 360mm by 360mm and 400 by 400. So the European ones are 400 by 400, and the 360, I think that's 14 inches, which is an American size. Most aircons are compatible with that, but you do need to check that if you're replacing an older aircon, whether it's the hole is 360 or 400. Yeah. And we can easily tell that if you're ever talking to us about your replacement of your aircon. We know the different models and what size they are. And as I say, a lot of the newer ones are now fully compatible with both. And even something like the Truma Inverter, we have workarounds to, we've worked out methods so that we can get them into a 360 by 360 hole, because they are actually 400 by 380. Yeah, so that's a quick rundown, or maybe not so quick, just a very short introduction to air conditioning. Just a couple of tips. If it's a really, really hot day, get your aircon on first thing in the morning, so before the heat comes in the day, because once your furniture is hot, you turn your aircon on and it might take hours for the furniture to get cooled down. So you're cooling the air, and then the air touches the hot furniture, the air gets warm as it's cooling the furniture. So on a really hot day, if you know it's going to be over 38 degrees, your aircon should be on pretty much 24 hours a day. The other thing, if you've got an older aircon and you're struggling to run it on a generator, turn it on to maximum. So turn the aircon on to maximum, the thermostat on to maximum, so it doesn't cycle, so it just keeps running. And if it's getting too cold, just open a door, let some of the hot air in, but just keep it running on maximum. That way the generator will keep running. The biggest problem with running off a generator is when pre-inverter technology, running off a generator, the aircon will come to a stop because it thermostat's off and doesn't need to get running. And you've got most people understand electrical inrush. So you've got inrush current to the electric motor to get the aircon compressor spinning, but you've also got head pressure. So the compressor is pushing against the compressed refrigerant, and so it's got quite a bit of oomph needed to get that moving again. So you've got inrush current to get the electrical compressor running, and then the compressor itself is pushing hard against the refrigerant. If you leave the system for a while, it all stabilizes and equalizes, and you don't have that pressure from the compressor. So if you do have a problem running your aircon off a generator, turn it off, let it chill for 20 minutes, turn it back on, put it on maximum, and so that it continues to run, so it doesn't cycle off, and that way you can keep it running on your generator. The other thing is generators struggle in the hot weather as well. They won't output their maximum rated capacity in higher temperatures, and also the electrical cord that you're using, the flex, it also overheats, and when it gets warm, it creates resistance, and you don't get as much electrical current running through it. So the recommendation in plus 40 weather is that the cord from the generator should be no longer than 3 meters, and we do have special cables or special hookups, electrical leads that have much heavier wire in them, so 2.5 mil copper rather than 1.5 in a standard lead, and they will help in these situations when you're in extreme heat and are working at the limits of your generator.